Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about the materials that I like to use when I journal. So these are just going to be the basics, just the stuff I use for my method that I think will be important for you to have if you're going to follow along with my future videos. And the first thing obviously is going to be a notebook. And this here is sort of the epitome of what I like to use. This came from the dollar bin at Michael's, which tragically in my area no longer exists. But you can find similar cheap notebooks at Big Lots and Ross and places like that. It's fairly durable. It's got the spiral for the pen, and it's cheap. I like cheap journals because I can customize them as much as I want, and it sort of gives me this weird satisfaction to take something really cheap and unremarkable and to turn it into something really personal that feels like a home to me. Something else that I like about cheap notebooks is that they're very unremarkable, so people aren't going to read them if you leave them lying around. They don't look that interesting. If you saw this, you might think it had school notes or grocery lists or day planning or maybe even Bible notes in it, which for most people, even if they are really into that stuff, will probably not read it because they won't be as interested as if they knew it was your most intimate thoughts and so forth. So some other examples of cheap journals that I like are this one, also gotten from the cheap bin at Michael's. This one's small, it doesn't have the spiral, and it's kind of wide ruled, but it fills up really quick, which I like, and the small size is convenient to throw in a bag. This one is from Target, I think, the bargain section. Like the cover, leaves a lot of room for customization. This one's from Ross. I like the size of this one. The cover is really thick and hard. So I think that's pretty good for having a writing surface anytime you want, and the spiral's really big, so you can definitely put a pen on the side. Narrow ruled, and for some reason I really like this, and I don't know why. And finally, I got this today, 50 cents at Walmart, a composition book, which is pretty helpful because it has the durability of a composition book. It's narrow ruled, it was really cheap. You can just decimate the cover and completely destroy it with like all kinds of stickers and washi tape and whatever. And I also like the bigger size. I think a downside of this composition book could potentially be that it is so big, so when I'm writing in it or you're writing in it, it would be really noticeable that you're writing something, so it'd be hard to do in a more compact situation like on a form of transportation, or if you're trying to be covert about it and you don't want other people reading over your shoulder, so that could be an issue. But I definitely am excited to try this out. I think I'm going to bump it up next in my list actually of ones to use. So those are some examples of some cheap ones. Now I do have this here, and the story of this is that I was given it as a gift because it's really cool, and I mentioned that I liked it, and I do like fancy notebooks for other stuff. For some reason, I had set it up in the way that I do, with notes and a do not disturb and other stuff we'll get to later, and I found it while I was going through my notebooks that I'd set it up but hadn't started it, likely because I don't usually like using these fancy things as journals, so I don't know why I set it up in the first place, but then I figured I better use it and get it over with. And the reason I don't like to use journals like this is because this thing is really pretty. If someone sees this lying around, they'll probably want to see what's inside of it. At least I would if I were them. And it also has this weird closure to it that's like already barely closing. I really like to add a huge amount of bulk to my journals. Like they get thick. So now I can't really put too much in the back. Like I only put a few stickers and it's already like barely closing. So that's getting on my nerves, and I'm gonna have to find ways around that. And also, this, like, if I like destroy it too much, I'm gonna feel bad. Like already this customization looks kind of, I don't know, cheap compared to the way the notebook looks itself. So one good thing about this is that I'm really drawn to write in it because it's more sturdily constructed, and the pages are a really nice size and width and stuff and really comfortable. And the cover does draw me to write in it, so I guess that's a plus side to having a nicer journal. If you don't know what you want to start with, if you want to do something cheaper or more expensive, and by more expensive I mean this was like $8 instead of $2, so whatever, it's not that expensive. I would recommend trying out both, or an app if that's what you're into, and don't feel like you have to fill up whatever you start with. If you hate it, just switch to something else and find what works for you. Here are the writing utensils I use. I'm going to let you know which ones I consider essential and which ones you can do away with if you don't like. First of all, I have my basic pen, which is a Micron 03, as you can see. These are kind of expensive. I got mine on sale, like a really good sale on Michael's. And I got these due to what I like to call the great journaling panic of earlier this year, when I read a Reddit comment about somebody who was looking through their old journals and found that the pen had eaten through all the pages, and that's why they only use archival ink now. So I wanted to get archival ink, and that's what this is. But in retrospect, I'm not sure that was really worth it, because technology has changed, and paper and more than just the pen can affect these things as well. So I don't think necessarily just switching to archival ink would make a difference, and I'm not sure that it was a change I needed to make anyway, since things are better quality now than they were, you know, however many decades ago that this person had written theirs. So I don't think this is necessarily something to worry about, and once this runs out of ink, I'm going to go back to a standard ballpoint, because that's just too much. These are also, I consider, essential. These are the 12 pack of my they're called Papermate Flare. Yes, and they are felt tip pens, and they come in the colors that they're shown as. So it's not like you have a yellow pen with a black ink. It's the ink that's shown. It's like a really fine tip marker. And these are awesome for color coding by topic and by emotion. And I use these all the time, and I find it to really increase my journal productivity by a lot. So I'm just going to real quick guide you guys through what each color means in my system, but you can make yours however you want, use whatever utensils you want. I just think it's important to have a color coding system or some way of being able to quickly identify different topics. And as you see my future journals, you'll see how this has been helpful in a myriad of ways. I use this red color for when I'm angry and writing out angry thoughts, or even not my thoughts that are angry, but maybe angry song lyrics or something like that. So more of a violent, irritated side of myself. This orange I use for when I make a discovery or realize something about myself or someone else or some kind of aspect of my life. It's kind of like my eureka color. Yellow is for when I'm worried or anxious about something, or really, I don't know, something is stressing me out, and I just write about it in yellow. And I think, hopefully, this will be the first one to fade away with time, so that's awesome. This green one I also use a lot. It's for plans I'm doing, so if I'm making a list of things I need to pack, or something I want to write about later, or just a goal I have in general, I use this light green. And this dark green, I haven't actually assigned it yet. I used to use it in my last journal for spiritual things, so like writing about God, taking Bible notes, if I had a prayer I wanted to write down, which I never did, or if I was doing a Bible study or something. But I found that I don't think that's the best way for my faith, because it tends to put God in a box. So I have all this stuff that I'm writing with black, with these other colors, and then, oh, I'm going to talk about God, so now I'm writing in dark green. And that's not really how God works. He sort of permeates everything, so I just want to use him. I mean, I just want to keep him with everything else and let him sort of permeate and be part of my whole life instead of just shoved into one little God box. So I haven't reassigned this green one yet, but I'm getting on that. This light blue is for something I wish. If there's something about my life that I wish were different and it's not realistic enough to make it a goal, I can write it in this color. I don't use this one very much because I can usually achieve what I want. I don't usually want things that are inachievable. And I don't usually like to dwell on things like this. But I think I should use it more because it could be really revealing about maybe what I value and how that might need to change. This dark blue one is for sadness. It's not really an emotion I'm that comfortable with, so I don't use it as much as I should. Weirdly enough, this is actually from a new pack of pens because the one from my old pack dried out first. Like, none of the other ones, these are all the old ones, and this one dried out. So I ordered some new ones from Amazon. I think I must have left the cap off, though, because I don't use it that much. I'm not a very sad person. Light purple is for poetry, daydreaming, writing stories, any kind of verbal art that I like to create. I put it in light purple. It's a really pretty periwinkle color. I love it. Definitely encourages me to keep working on my poetry, and I actually have written a lot of poems in my more recent journals, and some of them are okay. I don't hate them. This dark purple is for anything going on in my love life. Romantic, I'm in a relationship right now, and I write a lot about the guy I'm dating in this color, and just how I'm feeling. Usually it's only positive things about him in purple. It's just like, oh, we went on a date, and I feel great about it, and it's just sort of a documenting the happy memories with him. Or if I have a crush on someone and I'm not dating, then I write about that. I don't know. I think this could be expanded to include other things because I don't use it that much because it's so narrow. So maybe I'll change that in the future. And this pink one is sort of for just happy memories of all sorts. So if I go on a family vacation or I want to document just a nice, like, small pleasure that I enjoyed, this is the pen I go to. And I've been using it a lot more lately. I had a goal to use it up by the end of my last journal and I didn't yet. but I'm getting there. I wrote a ton in this color recently, and I'm going to keep doing that because my life is pretty happy, so I should document that. This is kind of the last color that I use for meta journaling, so if I'm writing about how I think the journal is going or what I like about the notebook I'm using, I use this one a surprising amount. I will often go back through old journals and cite quotes from them from like middle school and write what I think about that now. It's a really good exercise, and I'll talk more about it in future videos. But yeah, I use this pen a lot to sort of track my progress and to say what I'm thinking about how the journaling system is working for me. And look at that pretty rainbow, I love it. Okay, finally, you can use different highlighters for to track different things. And what I use these for is I'll just swipe one across the date, if applicable, to track various aspects of my life. So you can use it for the weather, you could use it for your mood or your health, or you know, some book you're reading, or if you're doing a Bible study, like how that's going, and just have like an unwritten code. This color means, you know, X, and this color means Y, and this color means Z, and then if you don't highlight it, it means something else. And you can just quickly track stuff that way. So it could be a habit tracker, just anything that's really important to you, you can just use to swipe over the date and make it really easy and convenient. This isn't necessary, I just have found it helpful, and actually it has been helpful in helping me to understand some things about myself that I didn't really understand before, and it's been a huge relief in a lot of ways. And finally, this is a piece of chalk, which I will be talking more about in a future video. This is probably the least necessary thing ever. It's because, look, in this journal, which is my current one, I have these 3 chalkboard markers, and I want to write like 3 words about like how I felt on the entry I just did and leave it there to see how I feel about it when I come back. But I haven't really been doing that yet, so I'll have to see if I need to tweak it to make it more easy to remember or more helpful, because right now I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to use that, and it's kind of going to waste. So these are the materials that I consider to be really helpful, and I've already pointed out the essential ones like a notebook and a pen and these colored pens here. If you want to follow along with my series of videos as it continues, you're probably going to want to at least have some kind of color coding system and a notebook and a pen to be able to really get anything from them. Shouldn't be too hard. You can use, you know, Uniball Vision pens, really anything. You could even use different highlighters and highlight over your normal pen if that's cheaper or easier for you. Whatever works. Just a good color coding system for what you think you're going to want to track and focus on. And you can change it as you go along. I definitely have, as I explained with this dark green one here, and I'm probably going to change this dark purple at some point because it's very narrow. Other materials you can use are art materials, craft materials, but as I mentioned in my previous video, you don't need to be artistic to journal, and you don't need to have a ton of expensive or even inexpensive craft materials lying around. I will do a video on art in a journal because I found it to be helpful in a lot of unexpected ways, but by no means is it necessary. So just feel free to grab the bare minimum and to continue along on our journey, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!